Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with many of the comments made by the honourable member for North Antrim? I won't repeat them today. But I would say this: the very nature of the public health emergency that has made it necessary to introduce these changes is itself the very reason why we have to have maximal accountability and flexibility in an ever-changing picture. We have to have, as elected members of Parliament, the ability to raise emerging issues and to raise emergency issues. Now, we all know that from experience that the gap between tabling a written question and having it answered can actually make the question out of date by the time it actually gets to a minister being on their feet. And let's be very frank, those who have been ministers know that there is no fear whatsoever at the dispatch box from answering the prepared question that has already been set down. The only thing that brings any fear to ministers is the unknown supplementary that will come and will be the genuinely probing question that will seek the information not set out in the civil service written reply that most ministers will have. Therefore, the ability to be able to have some sort of supplementary is the key probing element of what we have in questions to departments in this House. Now, Mr. Speaker, I think that in the current situation, where there will be a great desire to be probing for economic reasons, the Treasury Ministers and for the Health Ministers also, that does not need us to have changes to questions. What it does require is for the Government to be willing to come forward with regular statements on these issues so that the House can use this alternative mechanism, one which I think is inherently more flexible rather than the written parliamentary question system. It also, I think, requires the responsible use of urgent questions, so that they are not flippant and time-consuming. Not that, Mr. Speaker, you would allow either of those to take place, but we do need to exercise, I think, particular personal responsibility in the issues and how we use what will be limited time in the House. And that also applies to the Government. We need to have minimal legislation. Some of us think we should have minimal legislation anyway, and that the less time we spend making more laws for our country, the better. But the Government should certainly at this time be bringing minimal legislation, only that which is absolutely essential to the conduct of government, to the House of Commons, for however long these restrictions exist. And I would say, in echo of what others have said, the continuity of this Parliament in as normal a form as we can possibly make it, given all the restrictions, is essential, for we have a leadership role as members of this House in our country to behave as normally as we possibly can in the circumstances. And it's not just that we give an example to people in our own country about the exercise of democracy. It's also very important in this country that we, who pride ourselves on our democratic tradition, show that democracy will be resilient in whatever circumstances, particularly to those parts of the world who do not benefit from representative parliamentary democracy in that we do. We should always be willing as a Parliament to fly the flag for that democratic principle.